you can't bully me. I've got a jetpack on. I walked off.
When are you proudest of finding your voice?
I think it's every time I've been able to stand up for myself with grace. There was a moment fairly recently that, and I was sort of bringing it up because it's in most current in my memory, but I was doing a cameo in Doctor Strange, and I was like, okay, as Captain Carter, it's like, blink and you miss me. And I really sort of took umbrage on the fact that she has that brilliant line, I could do this all day. Then she's frisbeed to death with her own shield. And I'm like, she's so undermined.
But she's got so much to do in that one
So
bit.
busy, yes. And it just gets pulled out from her. And it's it's a funny moment. This is, and you never want to step on anyone's toes and really respect everyone's skill set. But I do remember sort of looking at the frame, and I'd also, bearing in mind, I'd come off 3 years into what has now been 5 years of working on Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise and Chris McQuarrie, who are so eager for everyone to learn as much as they can about every aspect of filmmaking. So you go and watch the monitor, you study the lighting, you study what that particular composition of a frame does for the audience and what it communicates. So they really encourage you to demystify the process and educate yourself. So when I got onto the Doctor Strange set, I was sat there with my my suit on and my jetpack, and I had my shield.
As you do on a casual Tuesday.
As you do on a casual eating cheese and just hanging out. And I remember looking at the frame and going, the lighting's quite harsh. It's giving. And I remember going up to a very lovely person who was in a very high position there, and I, of course, won't name and shame, but I was like, do you think maybe we could, can I offer you a possibility that I actually come in from that side and suggest if I do that line there? And I just came up with an offering technically, which I love doing because a lot of directors will go, oh, great, try something.
Yeah.
In this particular instance, he went, oh, sure, Hayley, I'll just tell our Oscar-winning editor that you have some choices you'd like to make. And don't you worry about that. I'll make sure he gets a memo. And I went, well, considering he's an Oscar-winning editor, he will know a good idea when he sees one. So I'm sure he will enjoy listening to what I have to say to make the scene better. And then the director kind of went, ha, ha, ha. Oh, I'm just kidding with you. I'm just bullying you. Don't worry. And I went, you can't bully me. I've got a jetpack on. I walked off.
The most iconic line ever. You can't bully me. I've got a jetpack on, babe.
And we both chuckled. And I thought, from someone, British people don't tend to like confrontation. Americans, I've noticed, are much better at it.
Yeah.
Because they can do it quite enthusiastically.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know where I am. This is my land. This is my space. There's enough space here for me to be big physically and vocally. And in Britain, we're kind of like, I'm terribly sorry.
But I've got
Can
this
I make
one piece of meat.
I just want it. And so being able to just find a way of going, I'm going to be a little bit bigger here. I'm going to say, I've got an idea. I think it's better than the one you've come up with, respectfully. If you would like it, shall we give it a go?
Yeah.
And if they're going to come back with a little kind of know your place, I'll be like, I do know my place. I've got some things to say.
And it was better.
And it was better. And it worked. It was better. So that's kind of an example, I think.
Yeah.
But any time you can find a way, I think, of standing up for yourself or someone else who needs to that kind of advocacy, when you can do it with a sense of humor and a sense of grace, so that the person that you're communicating to knows that it's the intention to make something better, then I think people do tend to be receptive to it.
And you get so much further that way.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to dress it up a little bit.
Just dress it up.
Dress up a little bit.
With some honey.
Yeah, just some nice honey or some like
little bit of sugar.
sprinkles or like floral decorations, whatever it's got to be.
Whatever you need to do to disguise the massive turd.
Now you're at this point in your life where you've got this sense of control over yourself and you know who you are. Is there a time you wish you were more compassionate with yourself?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh my gosh. I was so hard on myself. I think that I felt like I had to be in order to persevere and overcome obstacles that I felt like, and also, when you're younger and you kind of hear like, well, only 1% of the acting population is ever in work at one time, like 99% of people, whatever the astronomical statistics are out of work. And there'd be a lot of fear mongering when I was younger. I didn't know anyone that was in the industry as a kid. Didn't have any money growing up. I couldn't get like a break in any way other than studying the craft at drama school and being really good at what I did and pursue it seriously as a vocation. And that was a great gift because nothing came easily, but it also meant that I had to develop the determination. I had to develop the drive. And I think what happened was I also developed this rigidity in myself of going, if I failure was not an option for me. And it meant that, I would have to give myself kind of very strong pep talks coming out of an audition. Was there anything I could have done better, done differently? And I would analyze myself quite a lot. And I look back at that time, it was particularly in my 20s, and I feel kind of, I want to go back to that girl and give her a big hug and say, you can wear this all a little bit more lightly. And that talent will out eventually, and not everything is for you, nor should it be. And that hopefully will give you a much fairer perspective on your life because you won't be given everything. And I look at her now and I think you thought in order to be good enough, you had to be a perfectionist. But now I look back and I go, I was good enough in spite of being a perfectionist. So that didn't really help me. That just meant that I robbed myself of the joy of when something did go right or well for me. So there's definitely a lingering sadness there about that. I could have definitely been kinder.
We have women, female actors come on and we talk about the need for more male allies in the entertainment industry because actually, where are they? Do you feel like we could benefit with more male allies in the entertainment industry?
To be very candid about it, I have some really amazing men in my life. I generally, I wish this didn't come across as like just a horrible sort of mean thing to say, but I don't see much of it compared to, I see more allyship really with regards to the queer community. That's just my personal experience. There does seem to be straight men and women who, for me, I can see are more vocal in their genuine interest and curiosity about how do I learn more about the queer community? How do I help and encourage them to feel seen, to be fully who they want to be? And I love that. I think that's because it's also a very healthy conversation to have. I feel very comfortable in asking things I don't understand or think I might need to be educated on. And that for me is a gift of intimacy that I have with members of the queer community that I'm close to, is that they can feel comfortable enough to go, yeah, Hayley, that's not my experience, and I want to tell you some things. I would love to see a little bit more front-footed curiosity from the men, but ultimately, and I know that might be taken out as a soundbite, but ultimately it comes back to I don't see enough of it in the industry. I don't feel enough of my own support as a woman in the industry, but that doesn't mean that it excuses me from not being that for other people. I can't control other people. I can't demand more support or generosity from them, but I could be more generous. That's within my control. I hope that makes kind of sense.
That makes complete sense because even if it's not there, it's not going to stop you advocating for other people.
Yeah.
Even if you feel like you're not receiving it.
Yeah. And in doing so, I get the byproduct, the feeling of what it is like to be an ally and to advocate for other people. And I am kind of in a way, therefore, giving in return a gift of intimacy with that person to myself. And so instead of me sort of going like, you are not generous enough to me, I'm always doing it, you never do this. Going, well, I can be that. And when I see generosity happening and people coming out of their own comfort zone into wanting to learn about my own experience or other people's experience that's not their own lived experience, it really is noted. And I think Tom Cruise is that. He actively wants people to thrive. So he is very curious about who they are, what makes them feel seen and heard on their terms, and he will learn their language to meet them there. And I thought, well, if this man with so much power in the world can still be that kind and humble and generous and genuinely want to know how to connect with someone who is very different from him, that comes into his radar or in his working world, then there's absolutely no excuse for anyone else
Yeah.
not to also be curious or cultivate that sense of curiosity or generosity.
That's so true. And I mean, he must be the ultimate hype boy, right? Tom Cruise.
Oh my God. He's like a positive hairdryer. Because you're on the receiving end of his positivity and you feel like you've got this hairdryer. You're like, oh, wow, that's wow, oh my, wow. In the best possible way, and he'll often he'll be like, Hayley, people don't give people feedback enough. He even knows it, and they don't. And maybe it's a British thing. Like, we don't give people feedback that much. And he's like, so I'm going to give you some.
What's the best pep talk he's given you?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. One thing that I really like is, so social anxiety tends to be something that people talk about a lot at the moment, right? It seems to be quite a buzzword of conversation, and how a lot of people do have social anxiety at some point.
Everyone does.
Everyone does. And it can often be a new environment or environment of a particular kind of group of people or work situation or like friend situation. It can be about large groups of people or more intimate groups of people. It manifests in different ways. But the pep talk he gave me helps that, which is that if you walk into a room and you feel the anxiety's coming, and it makes me want to retreat into myself, and I start to overthink, and I start to go, do I look weird? Do I seem awkward? I'm not speaking. I'm just I'm muffling my words, or I need something to do to numb me from this. We go into ourselves. And he said, try doing the opposite. Try look out and look around the room and go, where is it? Where is the thing that I have attached onto my insecurity? Is it that person over there that reminds me of my school bully? Is it that person over there that didn't give me a job once? That person over there that I think was mean to me once? Is it, where does it live outside of me? And where do I feel like the source of it might be coming from? And if I look at it for long enough, the anxiety then can have a name. It can have a label. It can also be more contained instead of a free floating one where I'm just in a total struggle internally with my own anxiety. And I try and do that now more of going, if I'm scared of something, if I keep looking at it for long enough, it tends to sort of not be the monster under the bed anymore.
It's so true.
And what will happen is I'll go, oh, Hayley, you're really jealous. I'm like, I'm really lonely, or I'm really intimidated by the talent or the confidence of that person. And as soon as I can actually name what it actually is, the general sense of free-floating anxiety goes, and then I actually have an opportunity to do something about it. Like if I maybe go up to that person and go, hi, or if I go up to that person and go, I'm really jealous of how amazing you are.
Yeah, just say it.
It tends to just dissipate. Being able to call it, to name the demon out loud and leave it on the floor means that I'm not then, it's not living in me and it means I'm out of control and I'm struggling with it. So he's just like, if you're scared of something, keep looking at it. Just try not to close your eyes or turn away. Just keep looking at it. And it will often give you information about what to do to overcome it.
Well, that also helps when you're filming Mission Impossible and you're dangling out of a train.
I was like, sure, yeah.
You're in a tank, unsubmerged in the water for hours on end. Just look at it and just go through it, babe.
Yeah, exactly. Keep going through it. You'll eventually come out the other side.
The only way out is through.
The only way out is through.
It's so true. One thing we do need to talk about before you leave us today is Heartstopper. Babe, that cameo, that speech you gave Kit Connor's Nick on the beach was so powerful. How incredible was it to be part of that show and for everything it stands for, and to especially do that scene?
Okay, well, I have one thing to say about it, and then I'm going to put it back to you, because I feel like this show would have been for your younger self.
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I started watching it, when I was young, the only representation I saw of the queer community was in things like The Brilliant Queer as Folk, right? But that was for an older audience. It was heavily into the promiscuity, the subversive underground scene, which is so important and has its place in so many ways other than just the sex of it, right? It's a very kind of, what it says about the subculture is really, really important, and of a place of people found their way to be and express themselves. However, What was different for me in Heartstopper watching it was going, this is young people. One episode might be about like, is he going to text back or not? And it normalized queer relationships away from just sex, which we've talked about as a kind of fetishizing of a community. And the wholesomeness in it, I found incredibly touching and moving. So that's why I wanted to be involved in it. So, but my question to you is, what is it meant for you? And from seeing something like that?
Oh my God. I always think it would have helped younger me so much.
Yeah.
And there was something we were talking about before we even came on this, and it was about when Jessica Gunning came out on the podcast. And we were talking about where she said she had to separate it from being a sexual thing and being like a this is who I am thing.
Yeah.
And I think what you were saying about Heartstopper is so true, because yes, there is elements of, you know, they start to get freaky with it in the third season, shall we say. But it's not all about that.
Yeah.
And I felt like when I was coming out and struggling myself, I felt like I was coming out and basically saying to people, well, I want to have sex with men. But actually it wasn't about that. It wasn't just about the sex of it. It was about who I am and how I identify. And I don't think those two things they're not like mutually exclusive, and they're all part of the same package. But I feel like the stigma comes from it being about that. That you want to have sex and it's going to be with this type of person and blah, 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 blah. As a straight person, you don't have to come out and be like, oh, I want to have sex with this kind of person. And I think that's where the stigma comes from. So actually to watch a show where it wasn't even about that, it was just about who they were and getting to their journey in their own sweet time would have been everything, because I didn't have anything like that. When I was growing up, the only queer people I could think of were like Dale Winton, and God love Dale, like rest in peace. That tan was sensational. Supermarket Sweep. I was.
Oh, get me a trolley.
I was get me a trolley. I'm raring to go. Yeah. Like Dale, this is sensational TV, but that was the only queer representation I could think of, and to have that show, it would help me so much. But that's what's so incredible about theatre, TV, film.
Yeah.
It can hit you at a certain point, and it can be healing for the where you are right now, or it could be healing for the person you were when you were 13, 14, 12, whenever that might have been.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the show was so special. And when you literally had that chat with Kit on the nighttime scene on the beach, it was like, I felt like younger me could have needed that pep talk so much.
Yeah.
And knowing how good you are at a pep talk, I was like, God, I wish I had Hayley Atwell when I was 14 years old, just really struggling with myself.
Well, so, you have me now.
I have you now, which is perfect.
If like daily affirmations, I can send you them.
Maybe you should start an app. You're quite busy.
I'm quite busy.
You're quite busy, babe.
I also, I once did, there was an article that written about me, and I thought we had a lovely time. And then the journalist wrote Hayley Atwell comes across like a self-help book, ... a long one. And I was like, well,
the audacity!
It's like, that can get in the bin. I'm sorry. I am sorry if my natural desire, the way that I want to communicate in the world is about lifting ourselves up and each other, because my God, there's enough doing the opposite of that. But to go back to that scene in Heartstopper, what I loved about the lines that she had, where she was also going, love is also about understanding when you can't help that person.
Oh, yeah.
And you cannot save them, and it's not your emotional labor to do. And that's regardless of age. That's to do with understanding that person is on their own journey, and you can be there to support them, but not to be their therapist or to be their doctor or to be the person that tells them what to do to fix it, but just to gently listen and to be their companion, to sit beside them through what they're going through. And I think that's a beautiful idea. We can't fix anyone, but we can sit with them while they are hopefully finding their way to fix themselves.